So today we will be combining like terms, solving by combining like terms, and more on the distributive property. So combining like terms, if you look at this first example, what combining like terms mean is combining the terms that have the x and combining just the number. Remember, this 2x represents 2 times x and 2 times x. Well, we don't know what x is, so you can't just add to this, because remember, before you can combine or before you can add in any equation, you always have to multiply first. So you can only combine x's with x's, numbers with numbers. So if you look at this equation, and the way I always do this to help me keep track of what can be combined, I always circle the terms with the variable, or you can underline or whatever. So I circle the terms with the variable, and then you can underline the numbers. Make sure that you know, I'm going to go ahead and box it just so that I can show you. Make sure that you keep that negative with the 4. This negative doesn't go with that 2x. So I'm going to box these and then circle the terms with x. So if I have 2 x's and I add 2 x's, 2x plus 2x, if I have 2 plus 2 more, I would have 4 x's. And then if I have negative 4 plus 3, negative 4 plus 3 would be negative 1, would equal 43. Now, once you have something that looks like this, it's just a two-step equation, just like we've been doing. So I'm going to circle the variable just so that I know what I'm trying to isolate. So I'm trying to get the 4x by itself. So I need to do the inverse of subtract 1. So the inverse of subtract 1 is addition, or add 1, and add 1. So 43 plus 1 is 44. So then it would be 4x equals 44. Okay, again, do the inverse operation. So it's 4 times x. So the inverse of multiply by 4 is divide by 4. And divide by 4. So x would equal 44 divided by 4 is 11. Okay, I'm going to check on this first one just to show you. So it would be 2 times 11 plus 2 times 11. I'm just plugging in those x values back into the original equation so that I can check to see if I got it right. Minus 4 plus 3. So 2 times 11 is 22. 2 times 11 is 22. Minus 4 plus 3. If you type that in a calculator, 22 plus 22 minus 4 plus 3. So 22 plus 22 minus 4 plus 3. You can type all of that in. Make sure that on that 4 you put a subtract because it's subtracting 4. So it would be 43. So yes, that is correct. Okay, now let's do another example. They are going to get harder. You will have questions that are like these on the test, so make sure if you need help, you either ask me, or if I'm not here for your class, make sure that you send me an email so that I know you're not ready, because you will be taking a test. Okay, now remember, this is what you did last Friday or last week, depending on when you did it. If you have to distribute this because it's 2 times everything in that parentheses. So it'd be 2 times 3x. 2 times 3 is 6, so it'd be 6x. 2 times negative 4 would be a negative 8, plus 3 equals 19. Okay. Now if you look, it's 6x minus 8 plus 3. What is negative 8 plus 3? Because you can't combine 6, you can only combine the negative 8 plus 3. So negative 8 plus 3, if you type that in your calculator, it would give you a negative 5, so it would be 6x minus 5 equals 19 is still there. Okay. Circle the variable, that's what I'm trying to get by itself. What's the inverse of subtract 5? Add 5, add 5. 19 plus 5 is 24 equals 6x. So 6 times x equals 24. What's the inverse of multiplying by 6? Divide by 6. So x would equal 24 divided by 6 is 4. Okay, that's that example. I'm going to move right here to do my next one. Example 3. So we have 2x minus 4 minus 3x minus 5 equals 13. Sorry, that whole kind of got in my way. Okay, so notice this one has 2 parentheses, so you're actually going to have to distribute twice. So it's going to be 2 times x and 2 times negative 4. So 2 times x is 2x. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. And then I need to distribute the other part. Negative 3. Make sure you check that one. It's a negative 3 times x. So negative 3 times x would be negative 3x. Negative 3 times negative 5. Now this is where a lot of people messed up on the last assignment, because a negative times a negative is a positive. It should be plus 15, not minus 15. Okay, so 2x minus 8. This part came from multiplying this parentheses. This part came from multiplying into this parentheses. So then my next step is to combine like terms, and this is what I was talking about in example 1. So I'm going to circle the terms with the variable. Notice there are 2 separate places that I have variables, so I'm going to have to combine those. And then I have a negative 8 and a 15 that I need to combine. So I'm going to write this. I'm going to go ahead and write this just so that everything's next to each other. So 2x minus 3x and negative 8 plus 15 equals 13. You do not have to do this step. If you can look at that and say 2x minus 3x is whatever it is, I know what it is, and then you can look at this and say what it is, then you can just skip this part right here where you write it in the same order or next to each other. So I'm going to go ahead and say 2x minus 3x. 2 minus 3 is negative 1x. Negative 8 plus 15. Negative 8 plus 15. If you're unsure, type it in your calculator. Again, remember the negative is down here, so negative 8 plus 15. Negative 8 plus 15 is 7. So I would say plus 7 equals 13. Okay? Then it's back to a simple 2-step equation. So I'm going to isolate the variable. The inverse of add 7 is subtract 7. So negative 1x stayed. 13 minus 7. 13 minus 7 is 6. 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Okay, this one looks like it's done, but I don't want to know what a negative 1x equals. I want to know what just an x equals. So it's still a negative 1 times x. So the inverse of multiplying by negative 1 is divide by negative 1. So x equals a positive divided by a negative would be a negative 6. Okay, so that is example 3. We have one more and then you can start on the assignment. So example 4. Is 2 parentheses x minus 3 close parentheses equals 4 x plus 5. Okay, now this one is different than this last one. Notice this one, the 2 parentheses were on the same side. This one, the parentheses are on opposite sides. So I still need to distribute twice. So it's going to be 2 times x, which is 2x. 2 times negative 3, which is negative 6. You need to bring down the equal sign. Since there's an equal sign between them, you need to bring down the equal sign. Okay, then it's 4 times x, which is 4x. 4 times 5, which is positive 20. Okay, now this is where it gets a little bit trickier on this one. If you look, when you circle your variables, so you have 2x and you have 4x, when you circle those, since they're on opposite sides of the equation or the equal sign, you're going to have to do the opposite to one of them. And same with the numbers. So if I have a 2x and a 4x and they're on opposite sides, I'm going to need to move one of them. It doesn't matter which one you move. You can either do the opposite of a positive 2x or an opposite of a 4x. You will always see me try to move the smaller number, because if I subtract a 4x here, if I did 2x minus 4x, 2 minus 4 gives you a negative number. I don't want to deal with a negative number, so you'll always see me move the smaller. So I'm going to subtract 2x and subtract 2x. So then I would be left with negative 6 equals, what is 4x minus 2x? 4 minus 2 is just 2x. So notice that one's positive since I moved it this direction. 4 minus 2, since the 4 is positive, the 2 is positive. Plus 20. So the hardest part about these is moving, or that you have to move one of the terms of the variable. They're not on the same side. Okay? Then, again, circle your variable. Now there's only one of them, so that's what you're trying to get by itself. So what is the inverse of add 20? Is subtract 20 and subtract 20. So negative 6 minus 20 is negative 26 equals 2x. Okay? Then it's 2 times x, so the opposite of multiply by 2 is divide by 2 and divide by 2. So then it would be x equals negative 26. So notice I already have a negative 26 in because I already did that. Now divide, if you just hit the division button, it will take the a and s, which is the answer, the previous answer you have, and do whatever you just said. Divide by 2, which is negative 13. Oops. Negative 26 divided by 2 is negative 13. So that is your answer. Remember, if you do not understand this stuff, you need to let me know, because we are taking a test and you need to understand this and if you want to do well on the test. So make sure you tell me if you are not doing okay.